YouTube? Welcome back. Got another deck tech for you from the okayest MTG content creator. Everybody seemed to enjoy my last video that was a comedy sketch all about Bello, Bard of the Brambles. So that's who we're going to be talking about today. So let's get right into it. Here he is, Bello, Bard of the Brambles. He's a legendary creature, raccoon bard for 1 in Gruul. And during your turn, each non-equipment artifact and non-R enchantment you control with mana value 4 or greater is a 4/4 elemental creature in addition to its other types and has Indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. That's a lot of text on one card, but basically says any of your artifacts and enchantments that cannot attach to something are 4/4 creatures on your turn. They can swing at your opponents as soon as they come down. They're indestructible, and they help you draw a lot of cards. For the stats for the deck, contains 15 creatures, 5 sorceries, 6 instants, 20 artifacts, 17 enchantments, and 37 lands. As you can see, we're pretty stacked on artifacts and enchantments because that's where the real meat of the deck is going to be.
Licensing reimagined.
The deck contains 36 enchantments or artifacts that will trigger Bello. So that's enchantments and artifacts that basically are 4/4 creatures on your turn and are indestructible. We need a lot of ramp in this deck because almost everything we want to cast is 4 or greater. So we have 24, a massive amount of ramp spells. 7 pieces of card draw, thankfully one of it is in the command zone. 8 pieces of removal, 4 pieces of protection, and 4 damage doublers. You're definitely going to want to protect Bello. So let's get right into some of the stuff we got in the deck. So let's look at the creatures. There's just a few I wanted to show you. Scampering Surveyor is a 4 mana 3/2 artifact creature, so he does trigger your commander's ability. When he enters the battlefield, he'll search for a basic land and put it right onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Great ramp right off the bat. We also got Anvil Raptor, so 4 mana 2/1 with flying and first strike. Now, I took it seriously when it said Bello likes to make trash and do smash, so I threw in cards that are normally garbage, but in this deck they're actually pretty awesome because this is a 4/4 with haste, flying, and first strike, and indestructible on your turn. So it's actually really good in the deck. Another piece of garbage, a 4 mana 3/3 Bottle Golems. He has trample. If he dies, you gain life equal to its power, but we don't really care about that. But on our turn, he's a 4/4 with trample who's indestructible and helps us draw cards. Cactus Folk Sure Shot is just a great value piece in the deck because he gives all creatures with power 4 or greater on combat on our turn trample and haste until the end of turn. So you're going to want that trample because otherwise you just have 4/4s that can be easily chump blocked. He's also got reach, which is nice to help against flying, and he's got ward 2. Outcaster Trailblazer. Here's a great piece of both ramp and card draw. When he enters the battlefield, you automatically get 1 mana of any color, and then when another creature with power 4 or greater enters, which is the majority of our deck, you draw a card. You can also plot him too, which is nice. Fanatic of Ronas. I've talked about this guy before, but I think he is the best mana dork in green in the entire game of Magic. He taps for green, or you can tap him for 4 green, but you activate that only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, which is the majority of your deck. And if he dies, you can internalize him for 2 and a green and get a 4/4 copy of him onto the battlefield. Pretty great in the deck. We also got Disruptor Wanderglyph. Ordinarily, I'd call this a piece of garbage, but in this deck, he's a 4/4, and he's indestructible, has haste, helps us draw cards, and he has a little bit of graveyard hate. Next, we got Rose, Cutthroat Raider. She's great. On our turn, she's a 4/4, of course. She has first strike naturally, and at the end of combat on your turn, if you attack this turn, you make a junk token for each opponent you attack, so that's just some more card advantage. And if you sacrifice a junk, you add a red. Vexing Shusher is great in the deck to kind of help us against those blue players. Vexing Shusher cannot be countered, and you can pay a red or a green, and a target spell can't be countered by spells or abilities. So this is great for your own, or if you want to gain a little political favor and help your opponents not get countered either. And finally, we got Wild Seer Scouring Maw. It's a 6/6 elemental wolf with trample. Your enchantment spells you cast from your hand have cascade, and we're going to be casting a lot of enchantment spells. So it's pretty great in here, and it's already a 6/6 trample body. We have a lot of artifacts in the deck, so let's look at those.
Music
Really focusing on
licensing
a lot of mana
reimagined.
ramp, but these are also pulling double duty because they can swing. We got Dreamstone Hedron, costs 6 mana, but it taps to add 3 colorless mana, so it's great ramp. And if you want to sacrifice it and draw 3 cards, you can. We also got Essica's Chariot. It's a vehicle, but it also is a creature on our turn. It's already a 4/4, and when it enters, you make 2/2 green cat creature tokens. And when it attacks, you make a token that's a copy of a target
Artlist
token
IO.
you control. So we can just keep pumping out those 2/2 green cats as more blockers. Hedron Archive, another 4 mana mana ramp spell. Taps to add 2 colorless, and we can pay 2 and sack it to draw cards. So again, pulling double duty
Music
gives us more mana,
licensing
can be an
reimagined.
attacker, can draw us cards. Same thing with Ecor Elixir. It has some text about the planar dice, but we don't really care about that. It just taps to add 2 colorless, and we can attack with it. We also got Mithril Coat. This is probably one of the key pieces to put on Bello, make him indestructible, because we want to protect Bello, because the majority of the deck doesn't do much without him on the battlefield. It's great because you can cast it with Flash, and it automatically attaches to a legendary creature you control.
Artlist IO.
We got Nevarinral's Disc, and I have this in the deck. I try not to use it because it is a very mean artifact to actually activate. It comes in tap, but later you can pay 1, tap it to destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. If I've got a
Music
Mithril Coat on
licensing
Bello,
reimagined.
he doesn't die, and none of my artifacts, creatures, or enchantments die because they're indestructible on my turn. So basically just nukes the board except for mine. So if you want your table to start gunning for you pretty hard, play this and actually activate it. But it is a powerful combo. Nyx Lotus enters tapped, but you can choose a color, red or green, and add an amount of mana equal to your
Artlist
devotion of that
IO.
color. So great ramp spell, and of course it's an attacker. Rolling Hamsphere is a fun one. It's a vehicle that you can use to attack because it's a creature with Bello on the board. It gets +1/+1 for each hamster you control, and when it attacks, you create 3 1/1 red hamster creature tokens. Then it deals X damage to
Music
any target where X is the number of
reimagined.
hamsters you control. So depending on how long you can keep it on the battlefield and attack with it, you can just keep pumping out 3 of those hamsters every time it attacks, and then just keep doing lots of damage. Pretty great. Seal of the Guild Pack. This is a great piece of ramp. When it enters, you choose 2 colors. We choose red and green, and each spell you cast costs 1 less to cast for each of the chosen colors it is. So it's really going to reduce a lot of the cost on some of our big spells. Sisei's Ring, just another 4 mana, taps for 2 colorless, also is an attacker. Stone Speaker Crystal, similar, taps for 2 colorless,
Music
and it's an
licensing
attacker. We can sack it to exile any number of target players' graveyards and draw cards, so graveyard hate. And a Thought Vessel. You're gonna need this because you're gonna draw so many cards in this deck. It's gonna give you no max hand size and some more ramp. And we got Thran Dynamo, classic. It taps for 3 colorless, and you can use it as an attacker. We're also going to look at all the enchantments we have in the deck, which is a significant amount. Fire Emancipation is probably one of the best ones. Source you control will deal damage. It does triple that damage instead. So it is also a 4/4 creature on our turn. It's indestructible, has haste, and if it connects, it does 12 damage, along with everything else we have. Gratuitous
Music
Violence.
licensing
If a creature you
reimagined.
control will deal damage to a permanent player, deals double that damage instead. Frontier Siege. I use this because it adds more mana on each of your main phases. You get 2 green to your mana pool. Garruk's Uprising. It doesn't trigger Bello, but this is a great piece of card draw, and it gives all our creatures trample. And since it triggers when a creature power 4 greater enters, you draw a card. That's almost everything in our deck.
Artlist IO.
Guardian Project also can be an attacker, and then whenever another non-token creature enters under your control, you draw a card. And the majority of our deck is going to be creatures on our turn, so it's great. Leyline of Abundance. This is great in your opening hand, but even if you don't get it then, it's great to play. It can be an
Music
attacker,
licensing
and then whenever you tap
reimagined.
a creature for mana, you add an additional green. So all those colorless artifacts that are creatures on our turn, we tap to add colorless, and then we add an additional green. So it's great ramp. Sunbird's Invocation is a really fun one. So it's also an attacker, of course, and when you cast a spell from your hand, you reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value, and you can cast a spell with mana value X or less from among those cards without paying its mana cost. This is
Artlist
huge ways
IO.
to cheat in more of our big enchantments, more of our creatures. It's phenomenal. Mirror March, this is a fun one that I added. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip, and for each flip you win, you create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste, and you
Music
exile them at the
licensing
beginning of your next end
reimagined.
step. So you could just get a huge number of attackers and just swing out and possibly end the game. Unnatural Growth, another one that doubles our power and toughness of all of our creatures at the beginning of each combat, and this is also a great attacker. Warstorm Surge, this is a key piece. Of course, it's an enchantment that can be a creature and an attacker, but then whenever a creature you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So off the bat, it sees itself enter, it'll do 4 damage to any target. But if you have some of those damage doublers, it could be 8, it could be 12. It gets out of hand really fast. Look at the sorceries in the deck.
Music
We got
licensing
Blasphemous Act.
reimagined.
We'll do 13 damage to each creature. It costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield, and we're going to have a lot of enchantments and artifacts that are also creatures. All of our stuff's going to survive because they're indestructible, except for Bello. Now, this is a great way to kind of
Artlist
tilt the board in your
IO.
favor. We got Cultivate, the classic, because we need to ramp a lot. Same thing with Rampant Growth. And we got the Overwhelming Stampede to give all of our creatures +X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So it's usually going to be at least 4. Great way to end a game.
Music licensing reimagined.
We're going to look at the instance we got in the deck. We have a Braid just for a little bit of artifact hate if we need to get rid of something that's really getting on our nerves, hurting our game plan. We also got the classic Beast Within. Gets rid of any target permanent, and the controller gets a 3/3 Beast. We also got Chaos Warp. Great way to get rid of anything we need to shuffle back into a library. Shamanic Revelation, more card draw, but even better, we gain 4 life for each creature we control with power 4 or greater, which is the majority of our creatures. And we got Deflecting Swat. Not a cheap spell, I will admit that. Not a cheap card, but it is a phenomenal way to protect your board. We got Fog, just in case somebody's going to alpha strike us. We have a way to prevent that combat damage. And Pyroblast, this is a fun old card. You can counter a target spell if it's blue, or destroy a target permanent if it's blue. And that's pretty much it. Oh, actually, let me show you the lands real quick. Just a few that are kind of helpful. Mosswork Bridge. Hideaway 4, so you look at the top 4 of your library and you exile 1 face down, put the rest on the bottom, and then later you can pay a green and tap it and play the exile card without having to pay its mana cost if you control creatures with a total power for 10 or greater, which is going to be easy for us. We also got a Reliquary Tower, because we're going to be drawing a lot of cards, so we don't want to have to discard it on the hand size. Rootbound Crag is a great one. Enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest, which is the majority of the land base. And a Cinderglade enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands, which again is the majority of our land base. And that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know that for me, playing Bello is extremely fun. It can be very powerful. It's a resilient deck. The majority of your board remains untouched in board wipes. And it's just a really fun Gruul type deck. So again, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to subscribe or comment. I love reading your comments and responding. And until next time, have a great week.